Welcome back. So the African National Congress reportedly met with alliance partner, the South African Communist Party, in an effort to find a way forward before the 2026 local government elections. And last year, the SACP resolved to contest the upcoming elections for the first time outside of its alliance with the ANC. Well, we'll get some commentary on that. Former COSATU unionist and also a political commentator now, Dr. Ebrahim Harvey, joins us to give us his view on this. Dr. Harvey, a good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us. There's so much to talk about. And I almost actually want to start off in 2024 when the SACP said they were resolving to contest the upcoming elections on their own. Were you convinced and were you concerned? I think that's a good place to start.
Okay, good evening. Thanks for this opportunity. Yeah, no, you must remember something very important. There's a background and history to it. Many times, conferences, meetings, the SACP was getting very tired of being convenient electoral cannon fodder for the ANC, as COSATU has been. Many of their demands and interests and needs were not dealt with, both COSATU and the SACP. I think since the new leader of the SACP, Solly Maipela, was elected, I think there's been a shift from the time of Blade and Zimande. I think Maipela has been a bit more, serious about the relationship between the ANC and the SACP. And I think he played a big role in the decision of the Special Congress of the SACP in December to go it alone. Now, you must be cautious here. Let me tell you, firstly, while they may now not lack the political will, it's a very courageous decision, to go against the ANC. That's effectively what it means. People must understand that. When the SACP decided to go it on its own, they're effectively going against the ANC in the 2000s. And you can see the response of they've been very concerned. They've been trying to appeal to them not to go that route. Because if they do go that route, and if perhaps they do well, I can tell you that relationship is finished. If the SACP does very well in next year's local government election, which will happen towards the end of next year, I think that relationship will be, you can kiss it goodbye, really, if the SACP. But there are various concerns that I have. I don't think, really, to enter the elections, remember they've participated before in elections, a couple of wards, municipal wards they contested. This time they've taken a decision to contest all the municipalities. Now, from what I know, the SACP does not have the resources to do that. It's going to take immense resources to participate in the elections, and contest all the municipalities. So that's the first obstacle. The other thing is, the SACP has to be very certain that this is the right decision to take, because no doubt, it's going to create perhaps an unprecedented, election result next year. If they contest it, and already the ANC is on a downward trend. You can see they lost the 29th May elections with less than 40%. So the ANC has its back against the wall. The SACP has lost members. The SACP has now reached the decision that, they need to contest the elections. And I can tell you they would not have reached that decision. And look at the timing. It came in December. It came 6-7 months after the ANC had lost the national elections with just under 40%. And that was the turning point, I believe, for the SACP. They decided, that they've always supported the ANC. And if this is what is happening now with losing the elections and losing it very badly, they might as well go it on their own. Yeah. And I think it influenced the Congress decision of the SACP to go it alone. But to go it alone is one thing, and they might now have the courage to go it. It takes massive resources, and whether the SACP has got that, honestly, I don't think so. And you're looking at towards the end of next year, just 1.5 years there around. I don't know if they're going to be able to marshal not only the resources, but the organizational work and mobilizational work it will take to now contest for the first time the local government elections, to contest all municipalities on their own. It's going to require massive resources, and I really don't think the SACP has got it. Okay. Unless, they're going to be funded handsomely by whoever it is.
Yeah, and that question is, who would that person be? But I want to take a step back here, Dr. Harvey, and talk about if there is a place, though, in the political landscape for the political ideology of the SACP, you know, the South African Communist Party.
Yes.
Do you think that they'd still be able to grab the electorate with the story that they tell about who they are?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You only need to fight to answer your question. You only need to look at what happened to Zuma's party, MK. I mean, they became the third biggest party. And remember, they're moving with a radical economic transformation, a lot of radical rhetoric. I think it's appealing. You know, the masses in this country has been left, you know, empty-handed. You know, for 30 years, black people, the working class, and the African people in particular are today poorer than they were during the darkest apartheid days. So people are looking for a new party, and increasingly you can see how well MK did. That tells you something. That tells you, I think, that people are looking for a more radical way forward because, you know, the neoliberal policies of the ANC has left people empty-handed. You know, there's greater poverty, unemployment, and raging social inequalities 30 years later. And so I think that ideologically speaking, there's a distinct leftward shift in South African politics. And you can see the results of MK. And, you know, the EFF before that, though they dropped, you know, last year, to around 10%. The EFF made a formidable impact, and look what MK did. That should give you some answer about the ideological mood or direction of the mass of voters. They're looking for a different life and a different future.
Is there a cost to relations then staying as they are between the ANC and the SACP? And I suppose the real question that I'm asking is, should the ANC give its blessing for the SACP to contest next year's elections alone? And if so, is there opportunity there for the ANC and perhaps even for the SACP to continue to pull those numbers together?
No, I think, you know, it's foolhardy and naive. I mean, I've been reading the media. I think they don't know what they're talking about, frankly. Where on earth is the ANC, you know, as a party that's in rapid decline itself, going to give consciously its blessings and support? To the contrary, it's trying to dissuade the SACP from going it alone, because I think it foresees the possibility, if not the probability, that the SACP might eat furthermore into the declining, you know, electoral support base of the ANC. They may take a sizable chunk of support away from the ANC, you know, to themselves in an election. So it doesn't serve the interests of the ANC whatsoever. That is why the General Secretary has been appealing, you know, to the SACP not to go it on its own. And, you know, they had this urgent meeting today to address it. But remember what Mapaela said in December. He said there's no turning back. He was asked at a press conference, and this is, there's absolutely no turning back. That's what he said on record, in public. So, you know, if the ANC does succeed in dissuading them, it will really be, I mean, a big surprise to me.
But what would that need to look like? So what would the ANC need to do then to appease the SACP?
I don't know, you know, I think it's too late in the day. I mean, they had 30 years, then you must, I mean, you must remember SACP is a party, they lost a lot of members. Look at COSATU. And remember something else very importantly that I think you need to address perhaps on another show. It's very unlikely that the SACP will go it on its own and enter the elections as an independent political force without the support of COSATU. The COSATU and the SACP is very close. In fact, they've been closer than the SACP has been to the ANC. So, you know, that hasn't been addressed in public, but I can tell you it's very unlikely. That's how close they've been for the SACP to go on its own and COSATU doesn't support them. And continues to support the ANC. That's another thing that you need to have a discussion and debate upon. What will happen if the SACP goes it on its own? What will happen to COSATU? Whether they'll continue to mobilize support for an ANC victory effectively against the party that they've been very close to?
Yeah.
You know, so there's a whole number of permutations and things that could happen.
Yeah,
And,
you know, here's what's interesting is we're focusing so much on the tripartite alliance is that you also at the moment got this government of national unity, quite the talking point, of course, for Solima Baila as well as the SACP post last year's elections. The likelihood then that the ANC, and well, I've used the word likelihood because you've also used it as well, the likelihood that we'd see the ANC then say, well, let's forgo GNU partners and look within in the 2026 elections.
Yeah, well, you know, you're raising a massively important matter. The simple reason is that both COSATU, not only COSATU and the SACP, there have been people disgruntled with the ANC's decision to invite the DA into this coalition arrangement. And in fact, if you listen to the ANC, certain people and the two parties, alliance partners of the ANC, SACP and COSATU, they've been visibly, openly unhappy, with the relationship between the ANC and the DA in this GNU. So I think what happens to the GNU, and it's being severely tested. You can see the NHI, the Bella thing, and now the Expropriation Act. I don't think, I've penned some columns, News 24 on it. Really, I don't think the acid test for the GNU is now so severe that I don't think the GNU is going to survive intact for very much longer. But to answer your question, the fate and future of the GNU and what happens to it or does not happen to it is going to pivotally influence whether COSATU goes the SACP goes on its own, and also the relationship between the SACP and the ANC and COSATU going forward. It's all, inextricably interwoven. And so, the GNU is an important factor. In fact, it's what drove COSATU, I think, to go it on its own, because they've been palpably very unhappy, as has the SACP been, with the GNU formation since June last year when it was formed.
Yeah, of course, we'll wait to see what the SACP does next. Dr. Ebrahim Harvey, an absolute pleasure having you give us your time this evening. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Dr. Ebrahim Harvey, of course, a political analyst and commentator, speaking to us there. Well, you're watching Newsweek PM, the late edition. Let's take a short break. More news on the other side.